Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am back with a Challenger Crafty Friends card, and this time it was actually the idea to really use the Party on the Farm from Hello Bluebird, because you all know it, sometimes we forget to use certain stems, and we definitely don't want to forget this one. I'm going to challenge myself as well this time to create a card where I only use Copic Markers to create the scene as well as coloring in my images, and I got the suggestion of using the perfect coloring paper, which appeared to be really good with handling Copic Markers and should help with layering lots of colors on top of each other. I must admit, it's true. Like when you use Nina, I really like the paper and I really like coloring on it with my Copics, but you cannot add too much layers because then your paper will get oversaturated and everything will be ruined. With this paper I had no bleeding at all, and you will see later on that I really heavily ink blended on top of this panel, more than I would do on Nina, because of what I said before about bleeding. So yeah, I have stamped out my sheep and the balloon, and I have masked it off so that I could do a one layer card without stamping on top of another stamp. So the mask really helps with that. It's from Inkadinkado, masking paper. And now I'm laying my second balloon there. And when that's stamped out, I can start coloring. So as I did with the coloring with pencils, I first write out how I wanted the shadows to be into my bullet journal, which got a new purpose. And then I tried it out on this card. So I'm doing some Copic coloring, and I will put the caps on the side each time. I wanted to be a bit more dramatic with my shadows. So what works for me at the moment is definitely taking this paper, perfect coloring paper called, and then I lay down my shadow first, but not with the darkest color, just the second darkest one, and then I just do the ink blending as you're used of me. And as soon as I'm happy with the blending with the shadowing and stuff, I take my darkest shadow color, or just my darkest color, I add that, and then I start blending it out again with the same colors as I first laid out. So now I am adding my E18, which is my darkest for my cow, and then I will go in the same order as previously and just keep blending until I'm happy with it. And this is what I do in each image that you're going to see. First trying it out, and then when I'm happy, I'm bringing in the darkest of my colors. So yeah, there is a lot of coloring in this video as I am only using Copic markers. There is no blending, there is just Copic coloring. So I am putting on music, and I will be back as soon as I am starting on my background. So now I'm just erasing the final little errors that I made, and then I can start on the background. So as you know, I am not familiar with creating a background with my Copic markers, and you also know that I really like to go out of my comfort zone, or actually try to create things or just try out new techniques, old techniques but new ones for me, and see whether it can work for me or not, because of course one technique will be much more pleasant for you than others. So yeah, this card truly got me out of my comfort zone, but I liked how it turned out, so really happy with that. For the grass, I first started with my lightest green color that I'm going to add, and I just sort of traced out what I wanted to do. And then with some sort of a flicking motion, I tried to create some different heights of grass as well as some layers, because when you add a bit of Copic color onto another, even when it's the same color, you can darken the color itself. So that's what I'm doing, and I keep going back and forth between these two colors. And then I decided to add a third one, also using some flicking motions. And yeah, I just kept going, hoping that I wouldn't overdo it or do something that I wouldn't like anymore afterwards. But as you can see, I'm only flicking with my Copic markers here. And I really am going back and forth between the colors because I want to create multiple layers. Grass isn't even and it's not the same color. So just kept doing that, and then I started on the sky. So for the sky, I decided that I was first going to add my lightest color and see what I could do, how I could create my sky, what sort of sky I wanted, creating the edges of my sky because I wanted it to be a bit whimsical, and then just filling in the area that I traced, going all around each image. And as soon as I was ready with that, I took my second color and I added it on top of the edges, and then I blended again with this color over it to really try to create a smooth transition between the two, which wasn't really easy. This paper allows you to add lots of layers without bleeding, which is amazing, but at the same time it's not really that forgiving. Normally with Nina you can really push that one color back, or it just makes the transition easier. But I was in the end really happy with the result, but I used quite a lot of that lightest color to get some sort of a blend going. So I recommend, and this is the only reason why I was convinced of using my Copics for my background as well, is to maybe have the refill ready. I didn't need it this time, but I think that if I'm going to use these blues again next time, they will be dry, just because I use so much of them. And I don't want to be in the position where I desperately need to buy refills, because otherwise I cannot do my combinations that I like. So if you are planning to use a lot of a certain color, make sure that you already have the refills or are planning to buy refills in the near future, so that you don't get into any troubles when you want to use that color again time afterwards. So I keep going back and forth between my mid-tone in this case and my lightest one. And then I decided to add even a darker color on top of the edge, which you will see in a few seconds. And then I had to blend again with my mid-tone first and then again with my lightest color, so a lot of blending, going back and forth. No bleeding whatsoever, which is amazing. I'm still really surprised by it, but it's for the better, so you will see me do some more of these things, I think. Of course, I first will have to buy some refills before I can do that, but you know what I mean. I decided to add a bit of that second lightest color. I'm only using 3, so the mid-tone in this case, to the places where there is some shadow on the images, to add even more depth into the background as well, just around the images, not doing any thick lines of the darker color, but just a bit. And I will do a bit of tip to tip later on, because I really had some trouble with blending these two colors, even though there is only one in between them. I struggled a bit. And after that I will be adding a darker color to the edge of my background. So behind this panel I decided that I wanted to add a bit of a pattern paper, and therefore I'm using the Positively Peppy 6x6 paper pad from My Favorite Things, and I'm just cutting an A2 size panel out of it. Just because I had this blue in the sky, I really thought that this pattern paper matched perfectly. So I'm just adding that underneath this panel, and then I still needed a sentiment, so therefore I am using the Happy Birthday, and I'm going to heat emboss it onto black cardstock. So therefore I am using black licorice cardstock from Fawn, and I am heat embossing on top of it. So I'm using Versamark clear embossing ink, as well as some Nouveau Glacier White embossing powder. So with everything heat set, I just laid it down for a bit, and then I could buff off the excess of the anti-static powder too. And then I'm taking the sentiment strips from my elephant to cut out this sentiment. With all the elements finished, I just had to score my card base and adhere everything on top of it, and then this card is finished. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you enjoyed watching the coloring process. Truly, this paper makes such a difference. There is no bleeding whatsoever. Really, really lovely. So if you have any questions about this card, you can always leave it down below. If you like the way I colored this card and how I added the other elements, please give this video a thumbs up. I would truly appreciate that. So that's it for my card. As I said in the beginning, this is a Challenge a Crafty Friends card, which means that Julia also created a wonderful card using this stamp set. So for more inspiration, I am putting her YouTube link down below, as well as her Instagram. Check that out as well if you can, and I'm hoping to see you next time again. Bye!